Hello, my loves. Hello. I know I told a lot of you that I wasn't going to be going live this week or taking clients this week, but I am here. It is a September energy update. I'm really just going to call this an energy update because it's not necessarily inclusive to September, but this is the very next energies that we're going to be stepping into. So I'm going to preface by saying that what I'm going to be talking about today are visions and perspectives and information that has been given to me through many sources. It's been coming through from the Galactic Federation of Light, from the Syrians, from the ancients, and the ninth dimensional Pleiadians. I've had quite a team around me lately. I've had a lot of, I've been given a lot of visions, and I've been giving a lot of prophecy, and I've been giving a lot of things in my dream state, in my waking state, in meditative state, when I'm walking around my new house, everything. I've just been collecting and compiling and digesting and integrating all the information that they have been given me. And I finally reached a space where it was time to really bring this information forth. So as you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're catching the replay, hashtag it replay. Please share this broadcast. If it resonates, if you feel called, this information is going to be vital. And last month, I talked about ways to move through the fear and move through the resistance and move through the uncertainty and scarcity that will be coming up as we move forward. Because all that we have seen thus far this year is really just the tip of the iceberg. It really is just the tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to take a second and say, Corey, when you're on, will you let me know that you're here so I can make sure that I can see comments? I may not be able to see comments today. So as I go into this energy update, I'm going to start by giving you guys visions of the new earth, because I titled this Visions of the Destruction versus Visions of the New Earth Creation, because I have been seeing both sides. This is what it's like. This is going to be a very multi-dimensional conversation, and I'm going to allow my human perspective to interject. And I don't usually do that, okay? I usually have my human observe these broadcasts and observe the information that I'm channeling and bringing forth. But in this instance, I'm going to allow my human perspective to come in as well as the multi-dimensional higher consciousness information, if that makes sense, because it is this and that, and because I want you guys to see this is what it's like to live multidimensionally. It's honoring the human perspective, the more dense consciousness within us, as well as holding that higher knowing and that perspective of where we're going. Okay. So as I do in most of my energy updates, I bring forth three major themes that will play out, and I kind of bring forth information for those themes. And this is probably the first time I'm actually not going to be talking about astrological events. I'm not going to be talking about the full moon, which is today in Pisces, okay, which is my moon sign. It's a very deep, emotional, bottom of the well type of energy. I'm not going to be going into the moons or planetary alignments or any of that stuff today. This energy update is very much about the visions that I've been getting and just kind of letting people know potential timelines that are presenting themselves and really not from a space of scarcity, okay? None of this is coming from scarcity. I never say anything to invoke fear. It's always so that you can begin to learn to hold both sides of the perspective, okay? To show both sides. I really wish I could see comments. Can't. I'm not sure why. But that's okay. There's a reason for that. All right, so we're going to dive in. So first, I'm going to start off by saying I'm going to talk about some of the visions of the new earth creation that I've been seeing and getting. And some of these are abilities that we will have, because we're not going to just stop at the fifth dimensional plane. We're going to, Gaia herself, the frequency of Gaia, the frequency of what we call Earth, she's going to go well beyond the fifth dimension. And I don't know if we will see that in this lifetime or not, but it is a possibility. That timeline is there. It is a potential. So when I talk about these new earth creation, it is the 5th dimensional energy and beyond. And when we start playing in 6th and 7th dimensional energies, we start being able to shape shift. We begin to have X-ray vision. We begin to really see things in a different way. So some of the visions that I've been getting of the new earth creation are quite beautiful. And so I'm going to start with those because I really want you guys to receive and feel the energy of where we're going. Okay. So where we're going is going to look much different than where we are and where we've been. It's going to be more community-based. It's going to be more community gardens, people helping each other, people coming together for the common good. It's not going to be big box corporations. It's not going to be a government the way that we see it in today. It'll be a much more heart-centered leadership. It will be more places where people come together and help each other, more communal living type situations. I see people going to community gardens. I see people going to almost like, think about the vision that they're showing me is like an open air barn, or almost like if you've ever been to Amish country and you've ever been there and you've been able to see, I'm really being drawn to check on this live stream. So give me a second. I'm not sure why, but we're going to find out in just a minute. There we go. Now at least I'll be able to see what comes through. So it's all like community based. So I see like the Amish based community gardens and also exchanges like furniture creation, things, people coming together for doctors and for community like health services, mental health, everybody coming together. It's way different. It's people talking to their neighbors. It's people helping each other. It's like if you've ever been through a hurricane, like where I am, we have hurricanes, or you've been through a major earthquake or fires or whatever it is. You know, when the ashes are done, when the storm has moved through and everything is on the ground, disaster area. And at that point, it doesn't matter if you hated that person or if you were previously racist or if you previously had an issue against a gay person or an elderly person or whatever. Everything kind of goes out the window. And you just see a person as you. You just see a person as that person needs help. That's where we're going. We are going to see each other as each other, and we're going to work together. Some of the abilities that are going to be coming online, especially for you light workers that I'm talking to, and it's this X-ray vision that I was talking about. And this is an actual ability that's been opening up for me, which is pretty cool. As you maintain a 6th dimensional frequency, this is something that will open up for you. And it's not X-ray as in you see through people's clothes or through people's homes or anything like that. It's seeing through the dimensions. It's seeing through the realities. And so I would be laying down at night, and instead of seeing my wall, I would see a window, and I would see somebody walking by, and I would see things happening that were not in my current timeline. So I was seeing in another timeline. I was seeing through in another dimension, another frequency. And I was just observing it. There wasn't a lot for me to like gather in that moment, but it's because the ability is starting and it's coming in. I'm just being able to start to see through timelines in a way that I've never seen before. And so that's a really cool ability that's going to open up for us. But you think about the people who are just waking up, right? So this is the Great Awakening. So they're going to start seeing things out of the corner of their eye. They're going to start having a greater knowing. Their belief systems are going to start falling. They're going to have more synchronicities. They're going to start having more things align. They're going to have more active dream space. They're going to have things start, this guidance starting to open up, and they're going to start to follow their intuition and this knowing, this sensing inside of themselves, versus what anyone else is telling them, okay? They're not going to be looking outside of themselves for direction anymore. They're not going to be looking for a leader and saying, tell me where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. Tell me, how I'm supposed to go to work or how I'm supposed to get my food. They're going to be taking initiative and following their intuition and creating and getting their needs met on their own. This is the world that we're heading into. And think about that on a more communal scale where people start coming together and they really start building and helping each other. Okay, that's where we're going. And that's a beautiful energy. Now, this doesn't mean that this is going to happen at the end of this month. This doesn't mean it's going to happen in January. I do feel like, and I keep talking about this in the past couple of energy updates, that mid-December to mid-January, somewhere in that time frame is what I'm feeling. There's going to be a big shift in the creation energy where we start to see the rebuilding happening and the trial and error of new ways. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of the destruction. We've had systems and beliefs and structures and things in place for centuries that are no longer necessary. And it's going to take some time to break all of that down. And as I said in my post this morning, we cannot, and the higher consciousness, the guides, the people, the beings that are helping, assisting us on this journey are not going to allow it to be all ripped open at one time. That would be traumatic on our nervous system. It would be traumatic through humanity. It's not something that is going to happen in that way. It's going to be a slow unveiling. It's going to happen gracefully. And even though this may seem like it's not graceful, it is much more graceful than it actually could be. So it's very important for us to hold that state of knowing that this could have happened in a much turbulent, more turbulent way. So before I tell you the visions of what I've been seeing in the destruction, I wanted to hold those visions of where we're going, of where this is leading. And leading up into this point, I've been very resistant to sharing the visions that I have been seeing. And I had to check in with myself about that because I couldn't understand why I was so resistant to seeing it. But the truth is, we have to see our own darkness before we can hold space and have compassion and empathy for the darkness that we see in the world or we see in another being. We can't hold that space if we're not willing to hold that space for ourselves. We can't hold the space for another. We can't help another. We can't truly help another. I need to keep saying this. You cannot truly help another person. Hold space for them, love them, help them through a situation that triggers you. You can't. Because if you're not willing to be in that trigger, to see that pain, if you're not willing to see the pain, to hear the pain, to feel the pain of what another person is going through, right? If it triggers you, if you build a wall, if you immediately jump into reaction mode and are like blasting it back at them through anger or through grief or through sadness or through whatever distraction, however you are immediately feeling that energy fill up in your body like a well, right? So if your body's a well and something happens, a trigger happens, someone says something, does something that you feel your body just filling up really fast with sadness, with pain, with grief, with anger, with resentment, that's telling you something, number one. What you do with that in that moment is everything. If you can't hold space for yourself and feel that energy, which is welling up inside of you because it's yours, that somebody pushed that button, then you sure as hell cannot hold space for another. Because when you hold space for another, you have empathy and compassion. You feel their pain. You see their pain. And this is why with like the Black Lives Matter movement, right? I've kept very quiet about that. I haven't played in the politics. I haven't played in any of that shit. But something that's been coming through is, while I believe that there is definitely some manipulation behind that whole Black Lives movement, meaning it was started with an intention that was very misplaced, the reason why there are still enough people playing in it and actively speaking about it and actively protesting and sharing about it is because we have never seen their pain. We have never felt their pain, or we were unwilling to, because that is a very deep wound for them. But the truth is we have all been enslaved for many, many thousands of years in different ways. But when we turn on each other and enslave each other, that's different. So we have to be willing to see and feel their pain. That's all they want. That's all any of us want. When you have a trauma from a childhood, right? Your father abandoned you, your mother abandoned you, somebody molested you, somebody beat you, somebody just didn't hear you as a child. Maybe your life looked normal, but they were very emotionally unavailable. Whatever that wounding is, at the end of the day, we act out and we behave the way that we behave because we want people to see our pain. We want them to feel our pain. But the problem is, until we see our own pain and we feel our own pain, this cycle of victim perpetrator goes round and round and round and round and round. And we keep going around the same shit over and over and over again. So this is a very important piece of this, because what we're going to be going into, right? This moon energy is like, for me, it's like the spotlight has been turned up. And probably, God, I'm feeling like between now and the next 2 weeks that things are really going to start ramping up and up. It's already started happening, right? So this isn't just COVID, okay? This is violence. This is erratic weather, which we've already seen. This is corruption. This is greed. This is people grasping at the straws to hold their power because they have needs that need to be met and they don't know how to get them met without manipulation, without doing those things. Okay. And if you guys watch my 2-hour live event, you'll understand what I mean by that. That's the only reason why we have greed and corruption and we have all of those things, right? Violence. It's people feeling disempowered and overcorrecting to take their power back by taking somebody else's power. Because they haven't been willing to admit that they feel disempowered to begin with, and to ask for help and say, I have needs that need to be met. This is why when you have a child that screams bloody murder for no reason, I was one of those I was that kid. Police would get called and show up at my door. My parents would be like, we don't know what's wrong with her. I had needs that weren't being met, but I could not articulate what they were. So as you get older, it turns into violence and it turns into other things. So as we move forward and these energies start ramping up, okay, you have to be willing to look at your own dark. You have to be willing to look at why this triggers you, or why the fact that you don't want to look at it. Because some of you aren't going to look at it. You're not going to, and I don't recommend watching the news. But when you go out of your way to not see what's going on, there's a reason for that too. You're not willing to see it because it's going to trigger something in you that you would have to see in yourself, because you are only ever going to feel what you are an energetic match for. Even if it is someone else's energy, you have to have that inside of you. This is a mirrored universe. It is a law of attraction based universe. That's already been proven scientifically. So you can only ever be a match for it. Now, when that energy shows up, you get to ask yourself, is this something playing out in my current life right now? Or is this somebody who I'm feeling their pain because I have felt this before? Can I hold space for them? Can I have empathy for them? Can I have compassion for them? Case in point, I'm going to give you, this is a scenario I've used many, many times. There was this is back when I used to watch the news. This was a couple years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. I don't know. There was a family somewhere, maybe Utah, California, who had, and somebody I'm sure will chime in and tell the actual story, but there was a family that had a bunch of kids and they kept them in a house and they were like chained to things, and there was barren living conditions. It was severe abuse, right? And the parents were caught. And so their parents were getting placed on trial, and I'm in the pantry, and my husband at the time says, I have to make a lot of space for this, what I'm going to be sharing in a few minutes. he hopes that those people were tortured the way that those kids were tortured. And as he was saying that, in my thought, in my energy, in my body, I was thinking, I wonder what happened to those parents. I wonder what they went through to be able to do that. I wonder what they experienced. I wonder what they felt. I wonder how they were treated, that they thought that that was something normal to do. I had empathy and compassion for the perpetrator. Of course, I had it for the children too. But you want to know what unity consciousness is? You want to know what Christ consciousness is and where we're going? It's seeing someone who's done bad, someone who has played in the darkness, who has projected that forward, demonstrated that forward, and having empathy for them. I am you, you are me. There's no need to protect our energy. That is a very old paradigm. Why would I want to protect myself from me? If I am you and you are me, why would I need to protect myself from you? Because I'm only ever going to be an energetic match for what's inside of me. Now, that does not mean that you will not experience pain in toxic relationships, that you won't experience narcissists or people who are emotionally unavailable. I had to be a match for those things for me to experience them. That's why it was so hard for me at times, because I kept attracting relationships that were showing me parts of myself that I wasn't willing to see. If this is all you get from this live, please go back and listen to it 10 times. Let this sink in, because this is going to be your saving grace as we move forward. So let's talk about the bad vision, not the bad. There's never a good and bad. And this is another thing that they have brought up many times for me recently, which is, you ever see people do card readings or psychic message readings, and they're on the thing, they're giving the free readings or whatever. And they say, oh, just tell me whatever's in my highest and best. I want what's ever in my highest and best. I was one of those people. You know what they said to me? Highest and best is not always peaceful, abundant, flow, good stuff. Highest and best is expansion. It is movement forward into unknown territory. Highest and best is what is going to help your body ascend and your consciousness expand. That is what's highest and best. And in order for us to have expansion of our consciousness and ascension of our physical body, we have to be placed in contrast. I'm going to say that again. In order to have expansion of your consciousness and ascension of your physical body, you must be placed in contrast. Why do you think if we were here to experience connection, we come into families who abandon us? Do you see how that plays out? Do you see how there's purpose in your pain? There is a journey you take and a turning point of events where you step into the other side of that, and how you move through it and stand in service in some way, shape, or form. It could be through a regular job even, to help another move forward. This is what it means to live out your mission. So I wanted to bring that forth. Okay. So here are some of the visions that I've been getting. Now, I've had lots of people reaching out to me, because I have said over the last couple of lives I wasn't willing to share the visions I was getting. So people were reaching out to me and they were telling me their visions, and I was confirming them. And so this may be a confirmation for you, okay? But what I will say is, this is a probable timeline. There are timelines of complete and utter apocalypse. But the guides say that the the potentials of those happening are slim to none at this point. Okay, so don't think it's going to be apocalyptic. This isn't the end of days, the end of the world. It is in a sense, okay? But I think some people have taken that way too far. But that's my opinion. That's my human perspective coming forward. But there is the biggest potential timeline is the visions that I'm going to be bringing forth. And there are plenty of timelines here. But I'm always going to give you, that's what a psychic does, is they give timelines based upon percentages, okay? So I've had visions of, I've already talked about this, severe weather, which we've already began experiencing. This is fires, floods. This is earthquakes. This is weather and energies happening in areas that don't generally happen. And what they've been sharing with me, the ancients are coming in, they're saying what this energy is going to be doing is this is the rise of the ruins. And what that means is there has to be some shaking of the earth plane, the actual physicality of it. That's what it means, the earth plane, the physical aspect of Gaia. There has to be some shaking open. This is when we're going to see ancient artifacts and things coming to the surface that, it's almost like I see ships being risen that have been sunk at the bottom of the boat, for hundreds of years. Things being broken open from earthquakes or from Jurassic flooding that brings new artifacts and new things to the surface. So that's a part of it. It's also a massive cleansing. It's also a massive awakening. And as I stated in the beginning, when you go through a massive devastation, there's this leveling of the playing field that happens where you no longer see someone as an enemy or an adversary. You see them as another person who needs help, a person in the same boat. It doesn't matter if that person's a millionaire and this person only makes $20,000 a year. At that moment of great devastation, you are equal again. You've been knocked off your hierarchy, right? Or you've been humbled. And you stand there together and you look at each other and you're in the same fucking boat. Okay, so there's a reason beyond lots of these things, okay? And they are telling me there is some weather creation going on, meaning there's a manipulation of the energies. And it's so funny because this actually came up with the hurricane in Texas. I don't have a name, the big one, not Katrina, because that was Louisiana. The one that went in Texas. There is a manipulation of energy. And when that came through, I kind of chuckled. That was when it was happening, because I remember my dad telling me that he went to Louisiana. I think it was Louisiana. My dad was an engineer for aerospace. And so he'd go to the launches and test launches of space shuttles. And the technology that they were using, the chemicals, the environment, whatever it was, right? I don't have all the exact verbiage, but he said it would create a 1 mile atmosphere around what they were doing, and it created its own weather system. And it was when I had that download, and then I wasn't believing it. Like, oh, we can't create our own weather. Government can't create weather. And my dad had already passed at that point, and he was coming in and reminding me of that story of, yes, they can. I've witnessed it. I've seen it happen. So there's an aspect of that going on as well, okay? So these are just pieces to hold in your consciousness when these things happen. So again, fires, floods, earthquakes, those types of things, they're going to happen. This is going to be ongoing. This isn't just in September. So while I'm going to be bringing forth some information for September, we're going to be talking about these visions moving forward. And the timelines are shifting. Don't listen. I don't say don't listen, but hold with a grain of salt anybody that gives you hard timelines, because we're a collective energy. So if tomorrow everybody starts singing Kumbaya and getting along, everything's going to shift very dramatically in a different direction, okay? So this is in this now moment. The other visions I've been getting is of barren food shelves, okay? And I want you to think about the vision that I told you in the beginning of community gardens and people helping each other, like people growing different types of food and coming together, or actual community gardens growing, people growing their own food. When our shelves go barren, and please don't go out and buy and stock up on everything on the planet. Like we need to be prepared, yes, but don't go overboard, you guys. It's not going to last forever. But when shelves go barren, and I see this, I literally see bare shelves. Bare shelves. There's going to be a reason for this. Okay. And it actually came through in September's energy update that I have written down in front of me. I have seen rage and anger spreading like a virus. So I always see the more apocalyptic version of this. Like if you ever watched Walking Dead, which I don't watch it anymore, the empath in me just cannot tolerate it. But where, someone bites you and now you're infected and it begins to take over you. It's going to be like that, but not in a physical sense. Literally, energetically, if there's untapped anger and rage and resentment in you, energetically, you're going to become a match to it in the world, and it's going to infect you like a virus. And so it's very, very important. If you are a light worker, and it doesn't matter who you are, but if you are someone like me who is a way shower, a light worker, someone who's here to be the change, to show the way, that you create an environment of stability for yourself and a sense of presence so that you can discern and you can acknowledge the energy that's coming up and hold space for yourself instead of projecting it out onto another person and watching that chain happen, right? That domino happen to where it's like you get angry, and instead of owning that anger and saying, I am disempowered right now, and walking away and sitting with yourself and saying, I'm ready to see my pain. I'm ready to hear it. Why am I angry? I'm safe to feel angry, and working through those processes. And when you instead just go, you fill up with it and project it out onto the next person. Now that person is going to project it to that person, and that person is going to project it to that person. Do you see how it spreads? It's going to be ridiculously, like I said last month, like the Twilight Zone. People are going to be losing their minds. People are going to be angry for no reason. They're going to go off on you for no reason. Why? Because the energy of what's happening collectively is going to trigger it. And they're not going to understand why they are angry. But it's an opportunity. It's a gift for them to sit down and to see their pain, to acknowledge what happened to them in their life, to hold space for themselves and allow themselves to go through those emotions and feel that pain and love that part of them. Love that part of them that was abandoned, that was rejected, that didn't get their needs met. Love it. Bring it back. Call it back to themselves. Last month's energy update, I went into great detail about how to process through fear and how to process through these things. So that's there for you. So you're going to see rage and anger and violence, and what comes from that, right? More crime, more murder, more illness. When you have anger issues, you have liver issues. Right? Your liver stops processing life. It stops processing your energy. Anger creates a wall, and it doesn't allow you to process. Anger is grief's bodyguard. It says, nope. And grief is feeling the pain. And so anger comes in and says, nope, you're not collecting, you're not passing go, you're not collecting anything. But it's when you see that anger and you say, I have a bodyguard here that doesn't want me to have to feel something, but I'm going to say it's okay and I'm going to feel it today. When you let that guard down and you let that guard off the hook and you open up that well and you say, I'm going to feel the sadness underneath this. I'm going to feel the grief underneath this. And grief is just loss, you guys. Loss of a part of you, loss of a person, loss of a part of your childhood. You're just going to allow yourself to break down, to cry, to feel the pain. But so many aren't going to be willing to do that. And so it's going to become outward. And when it's not outward and when it's shoved down inward, then your liver is going to stop processing. Your organs are going to stop functioning. You're going to see a lot more illness, and that may show up as COVID, because God knows the humans, me, is saying God knows they're going to mark it as COVID, right? Because we have this shit going on. So there's going to be an increase in illness. There's also going to be an increase in violence. And that doesn't mean in every city and every town it's going to be that way, okay? I see this happening in a lot of the bigger cities and a lot of the bigger populations, the more metropolitan things, right? More marches, more protests. I see a lot of different types of destruction, buildings burning, people looting. Again, that goes into the violence category. I see mass shutdowns happening again and people being hunkered down in their homes. I see the Twilight Zone. It's going to look fucking crazy, you guys. It's going to look crazy. And this isn't going to happen all at once. It's not like a switch is going to go off and the world's going to go kaboom. It's going to start unfolding gracefully. And I say gracefully as in it's one thing will happen and then here goes another thing's going to happen and then here comes another thing's going to happen. This is the destruction. This is all of the old beliefs, programs, patterns, karmic energies breaking down, right? So again, the ancients have said and the Syrians have said there's an underbelly of karma rising to the surface. So the more that we begin to see, the more we start to see that's unveiled, it means we're ready to see that pain. We're ready to feel that pain. And that, if it triggers you, if it invokes any type of fear in you, there's something that's an energetic match for you. And so all you're being asked to do is hold space for it, to see it, to hear the cry for help, to hear what they needed you to hear, to allow for this to unfold, to allow yourself to feel safe, to feel whatever you're feeling about it, no matter who you are. It doesn't mean that I still don't have moments where I cry or I get angry. I'm human. But I know to sit down and to allow myself to feel safe, to feel it. I don't get on Facebook and project it. I sit, I don't push it off onto another person. I sit with it. And some days that looks like I'm a hot mess, but that's okay. Because I have to process my stuff. Otherwise, I'm not being the change. I'm just preaching and not being the change. Do you see the difference? So why these images are scary, seeing some areas, they might have, I wouldn't say martial law, but in that type of energy where you have like National Guard and military patrolling, there may be pockets of that. You're going to see government collapses, right? So I kept one student this week, and I'm not going to share her name or exactly what she said, but she went on vacation and she went to a place where it was much better energy. She felt a lightness about her. She felt really expanded. She felt really high vibe. And then she came back to the UK or to England. And as she was landing, she could feel the heaviness coming over her. And she could feel when she was in the UK and when she lived, because she lives in England, that this energy, it's heavy, it's doom and gloom. It's literally like the density of the air is different. And I said, well, there's a lot of shit that's happened there, right? You have centuries of corruption within the kingdom. All of that's going to break down. The churches are going to continue to break down. The governments around the world are going to continue to break down. The monetary system is going to continue to break down, right? Do you think the coin shortage is really a shortage? It's not. It's the beginning. In fact, you're going to start seeing Narza and Giza start where there's forgiveness of debt. That's another piece that's coming in. There will be complete and utter debt forgiveness, right? And it's funny because it was yesterday I called my bank for a silly, I just need help, going to e-statements instead of paper. And as I was listening to the recordings, they already had announcements about how to apply for forgiveness of debt. And I said, it's already happening. This is the beginning. That doesn't mean go rack up your credit cards either. But like I said, there's no timeline of when that's all going to happen or when that's all going to play out. Home ownership is going to look much different. I mean, think about the energy of owning something. This is mine. Remember in my 2-hour live event, I talked about the first 7 years of our life. It's meeting my needs, mine. That's not yours, that's mine. Ownership's going to go away. It's not going to be the same as it is now. So you're going to have debt forgiveness and things like that are going to come in too. So anyway, she went from that place to England. And I said, that's the difference, is the land, the places where we are, where some of us are super extrasensory. I went from San Diego to North Carolina, into a place where I was completely accepted for any of my quirks and uniqueness, to a place where I was ostracized, where I walked around and felt like I was a zoo animal and am treated like an outsider. And my son was treated like an outsider. My daughter was treated like an outsider for not converging to their beliefs and their ways, right? Why are we light workers being spread all over the planet and being transplanted to places where we're like, why the fuck are we here? Because we are literally being the beacons of light and transmuting and holding that higher frequency as these areas shift. So I know a lot of you are feeling the urge to go, to move, to travel. I got to go here and here and here. I want to go all around the world, right? Or I want to go on a family trip, or I want to move. There's a reason for that. When I go to certain restaurants or certain places, I will literally feel energy pouring from my feet. And that's because there's something about the area that I'm standing in, or the land that I'm standing in, that needs to be transmuted. And I'm standing there as a vessel, allowing the light to pour through me and anchor into that density. So what she was feeling was going from a place, and in fact, she was supposed to go to France, but she couldn't go to France because of whatever happened. And France is another place that's completely loaded with dense energy. It's had a lot of trauma and a lot of karmic energy happening. So she ended up going somewhere else, which was much more lighter, right? She needed that recharging. And then when she returned, she had to go through this rebalancing in her body, where it almost felt like she was getting sick. Because when we're getting sick, when we think we have allergies or a summer cold or we have the flu, what we're doing is our body is transmuting. Our body is actually taking dense energy and transforming it into space, integrating it, cleansing it from our bones, making space literally inside of us. We call them ascension symptoms. Because your physical body is ascending. It's like clearing out the sludge inside of you. One cough, sneeze, throw up at a time, whatever it may be. So that's the type of thing, you're going to be seeing those types of energy shifting. And you're going to be sensing it and feeling it. And a lot of people are going to be waking up and going through I'm already watching it. I'm watching people awaken and become more aware. Okay, so they're wanting to move into the 3 energies that I have here before me that we're going to be talking about, the 3 major points of September. One thing that I'm going to bring forth is, and it's kind of in here too, but as you're watching these things unfold, whatever it is, whenever it begins, whenever it starts, and you start to see things unfold, whether it's protests, whether it's lockdowns, whether it's COVID, whether it's weather systems, whatever it is, you don't have to do anything, but I would like for you, I want to give you the possibility of still feeling it, still being aware of the human aspect of it, still honoring the emotions that are arising in you and processing them, holding space for them, but not playing in them. Because you're going to honor the emotions that are rising up in you and what's happening, but you're also going to hold the higher knowing of where we're going. And knowing that what we're seeing cannot be stopped. This train cannot be stopped. It's going to happen whether you fight with it, whether you get mad at it, whether you cry about it, whether you fight with it, whatever. It's going to happen. So honor that emotion. Honor what's coming up for you. Hold space for yourself, but also hold the higher knowing. You know, it's not funny, but so the latest visions I was given before we dive into the 3 energies is I was standing on a shoreline, and it was a grassy knoll, and there was buildings, and there was a bunch of people. And I was standing on the edge looking out at the water, and there was a line of water spouts, between 4 and 6 water spouts. And I was so enthralled by them. And I was just standing there going, wow. For those who really know me, you know that back in the day, I wanted to be a weather chaser. I love the elements. I wanted to go chase tornadoes and stuff. And I was just standing there enthralled by these huge water spouts and just seeing the turn up and what it was turning up. Water is emotions, right? And what's a tornado and water spout? It's turbulence. It's turning up what's been underneath the surface. I was just watching them, and I looked behind me at the world, or everybody else that was there in this vision, and everybody was panicking. And my thought was, I got to get my camera. I need to go document this. I was literally in a very detached observer focus of, this is magnificent. While it's scary as shit, and it's uncertain, I don't know what's about to happen, I need to document this. And I know that it's happening for a good reason. So I'm running to do that. And the next vision I got was us hunkered down and people like drinking and medicating. And I was just watching all these people like checking out of their reality, disassociating completely. And again, complete observer mode. I was just like looking around this room, and people were just like, oh, I'm just going to drink it away, or I'm just going to do whatever. It was literally like this. They could not consume enough to medicate them. And again, this was me observing. These are points of things that I needed to observe to be able to understand what the energy that I'm going to be sharing with you. And then another vision, I was at this park, and there was a woman being escorted by a police officer, and she was very, I would say inebriated, but I almost think she was in some type of psychosis that kind of mimicked in like being inebriated. And I was sitting 2 places over from her, and I could literally see the divide. Where I was, they said I heard the word sitting pretty. I could see the grass was green on my side. I could see, even though the reality was one thing, what I was seeing was a completely different reality. And I was very calm, and I was just sitting there swinging like, yeah, like this is all happening to be transmuted. Like that's why we can see it. When you start to see the pain and feel the pain, you know it can be transmuted, and we transmute it through love. We transmute it through holding space, hearing somebody, not trying to fix it, not trying to control it, not trying to make it go away, literally holding space, sitting there in stillness, listening and feeling and empathizing and compassionate and saying, man, I resonate. I know that pain. And I'm going to sit here and love you while you experience your pain. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to love you. And I was just sitting there, and I was swinging, and I was like, everything's going to be okay. And even though that person didn't feel that way, I didn't tell them that. I just held that space for them and held the higher knowing of what I was seeing. You hold the higher knowing of where we're going. I was also seeing cars going underwater. And so this is very symbolic too. So cars completely submerged, like sinking. And cars represent a masculine energy. It's our ability to move forward. It's our ability to go places, to be independent, movement, right? It's usually father energy. It's also masculine energy. It's very symbolic of vehicle. So when you have vehicle problems, remember that. But they were going underwater, right? So they were becoming immobilized. It's almost like, and if water is emotion, it's almost like we were being immobilized and we were being forced to sit and to let go of control and to be in that art, that almost, it's the Saturn energy, right? Saturn energy is the karmic. It's the father energy. It's sitting and feeling what we don't want to feel, not being able to move forward. So again, another confirmation of the shutdowns that are going to be coming. Okay. I know this is very heavy, you guys. And so that's why I wanted to start with the lightness, because this isn't to scare you. This is for you to create a plan that's sensible, to prepare yourself and have a sanctuary in your home. And that's where I was going earlier that I squirreled off, but is for light workers, for anybody, is to create a sanctuary in your home, a Zen place where there's no electronics except for maybe some music, some crystals, some nice lighting, comfy seating, whatever is your sanctuary that's going to relax your body, make you feel safe, and allow you to just be and relax and be away from the noise. Everybody's going to need that moving forward. Everybody's going to need that time every day to be alone, to just unwind, to release, to be whatever it is that you need. You need to create a Zen place. I don't care if it's a damn broom closet. Create some Zen in your house, in your life. All right, so September energies. I have 3 major themes this month. The first one was a little hardcore. I heard death, but I also heard starting from scratch. And so death, there's always has to be a death before there's a birth, right? That's rebirth. So this, the beginning of this month, this full moon energy is really kind of sparking it up. We're going to see the beginning of the destruction. Again, COVID in the beginning of the year, everything that was happening is all a part of the tip of the iceberg. It's all going to start chipping off and becoming more and more aware. More and more light's going to be shed on things that have been here for centuries, you guys. Sex trafficking, blood drinking, greed, corruption, manipulation, all of that shit's been happening forever. Okay? It's just now we're starting, more people are willing to see it, so the light's being turned up on it. All right? So every time something is seen, it means it's ready to be held space for, so that it can be transmuted. I cannot say this enough. So I asked, let's go deeper into this. So what are some things that people can do as they're watching the destruction begin? This is the process where the destruction is going to start beginning, okay? And so the 3 things that came forward was hold the higher knowing, which we've been talking about. Hold that higher knowing of where we're going. That's why I gave you those visions. That's why I gave you those images. Hold the higher knowing of what you want to create, what you want to see in the world, how you want to feel, what you want to see, what you want your life to look like. We're literally going to be coming into a blank slate. Do you want to work for someone else? Do you want to create your own thing? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to support yourself? How do you want to be of service? Because how you support yourself and how you be of service are going to become one. Okay? It's going to become one. This is how you step into flow. Phase 3 of your soul's evolution is flow. It's the structure, which is you, your boundaries, who you are, what you want, what you don't want, what you'll tolerate, what you won't tolerate. And phase 2, which is flow, which is the emotion, the intuitiveness, the guidance. So 3 is being able to hold the structure and the flow to serve not only yourself and meet your needs, but serve others and their needs as well. So hold that higher knowing, however way you want to do it. Okay? Take lots of breaks, have lots of moments where you close your eyes and just sink into that vision, sink into your heart, and remember, hold that frequency. Patience. This is not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be over overnight. Have patience for yourself. Have patience. Take long, deep breaths. Go for walks. Create space in your home. Love each other. Have compassion for each other. This is not a sprint. or this is not a race, however that word is. This is the long haul. We are going to be going forward. This is going to take a little bit of time. So don't expect things to go back to normal. Nothing's ever going to be normal again. It's going to be what you want to create. The third thing was preservation, they said. And what does preservation mean? It means using your energy wisely. Again, if you see somebody doing something on Facebook, you see another spiritual teacher, you see another person doing something that you don't agree with, is it really worth your energy to let them see that you don't agree? Is it really worth your energy to make a scene? Is it really worth your energy to make a fuss over something? Check in with yourself. Learn to preserve your energy. What is the best use of my energy? Is it to deal with this? Or is it to say, I see where they are in their life. I see where they are in their energy. They're probably trauma-filled. They probably have a lot of limiting beliefs. They probably have a lot of unresolved trauma. I see why they're acting the way that they're acting. I'm just not going to play in that. So I'm just going to be like, hi, I see you. I acknowledge you. I hear you. And I'm going to keep walking. It's possible to do, you guys. Because again, my guides always say, there's truth in everything, but not everything is true. So when someone has a belief that's hardcore or they're stubborn in it, that's their truth. It's actually true for them. And if you are so close-minded still to where you have to hold a rigid belief that only your way is the right way, then you're no better than them anyway. So be open-minded enough to notice when you're closed-minded. Be open-minded enough to say, yeeks, I'm trying to prove myself here. I've done it. I've been there. Okay, there's something here. If I'm needing to prove, then I'm defensive. I'm defending something inside of me. Work it out. Trace it back. This is why having a big toolbox right now is going to be super important. This is also boundaries. Who are you? What do you want? Boundaries are not an offense, you guys. It is who you are. Who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? What kind of person do I want in my life? What kind of person do I not want in my life? What kind of things do I like to do? What kind of things do I not want to do? What are my non-negotiables? Like, those are your boundaries. And when you compromise your boundaries, you're compromising yourself. You're abandoning yourself. You're abusing yourself. Do you understand? Do you see that? So this is going to be the first part of the month. This is going to be the beginning of the downfall. The second big energy theme this month is going to be awakening. This is very much an intuitive activation. This is the great awakening, right? That continues to happen. This is going to be another layer of that. Think about it. When we start to have big destruction and we start to have events, people start using their instincts again. Right? As children, we would say, Mom, I'm hungry, or Mom, I want to go play, or Mom, I'm tired. And she would say, nope, it's not time yet. And so we stopped listening to the voice inside of us that said when to eat, when to sleep, when to play. And we looked outside of ourselves for someone, and we said, Mother, may I? And we started looking for other people to tell us when we were allowed to eat, when we were allowed to play. Do you see how enslaved this, and this isn't your parents' fault. This is what they were taught. Do you see how enslaved we've been? So we're breaking that. And we're awakening our intuitive guidance of, it's time to move. It's time to eat. It's time to stay still. It's time to sleep. It's time to stay in my home today. Even if it makes no sense to anybody else, it doesn't have to. Who gives a shit what someone else thinks? Right? It's like buying the Ferrari to show people that you have money, right? It's pointless. If you actually love Ferraris and you have a love for car and you appreciate it and you're all about it, that's different. But a lot of people today, they buy things, they have the newest things, they buy the most expensive things as a status symbol. That's a sign of trauma, by the way. It's a way of coping with trauma. See me, I have the newest thing. I don't know why someone needed to hear that. Okay, so I asked for, again, how can we help with this energy? How can I share with people how to move through it? So it was letting go of control, detaching. So again, stop trying to control your environment. Stop trying to control other people. Stop trying to control the world. Stop trying to control other teachers, healers. Stop trying to control your other friends and coworkers. Stop. Allow people the space to make their mistakes. Allow the space for people to take the journey that they're meant to take. Detach. This is a struggle I've had my whole life. I've been working through detachment because I've been through such intense pain in my life and such intense trauma that I spent my life trying to protect other people from experiencing that. And in so I hindered them because I needed to give them the space to make mistakes. I needed to give them the space to figure it out on their own. We have to give each other space. We have to let go of control. We have to stop trying to protect everything and everyone and allow people to trust their instincts again. To learn their instincts. To go, shit, you know what? I had a feeling earlier that I shouldn't have left and now I'm stuck in traffic. Or I got in an accident. Or shit, I had an instinct that I shouldn't have spent that last $10 and now my bank account's overdrawn. And while that sucks, they recognize their instinct that they had and they connect the dots. You can't have today's awareness without yesterday's mistake. If you don't give people the room to make mistakes, they're never going to have any awarenesses. So this is the overbearing mothers and fathers who have done everything and taken care of everything and controlled everything. And they're walking around with children who are fucking completely unaware, or who are now adults who are completely unaware. It's because they never had to be. It's not their fault. So we have to give people the space to figure their shit out, to reconnect with their intuition again, their instincts. Second, action. This is when a lot of reorganizing is going to begin to happen. And what I mean by that is people are going to start planting their own food. People are going to start figuring out, I have other needs that need to be met. How can I get those needs met? They're going to be reorganizing their life, right? So maybe that's jobs, children. I just see a lot of reorganizing happening. And in that reorganizing these are the needs I need to be met. I need to eat. I need this. I need that. I need this. I need that. And we come into the third part of this middle of the month energy. And that's what they said was light. It was creativity. It was that guidance starting to flow through and the trial and error beginning of, let me try doing this and seeing if that meets my needs. And let me do this and let me see if that meets my needs. And there's going to be some failure in that, right? Because nothing can be successful without failure. It's trial and error. It's not success and failure. It's trial and error. So we're going to be trying new things. There's going to be people trying new things and coming together and helping each other and figuring it out. New opportunity, creativity, ways of us going, man, I really have this need that it needs to be met. Excuse me, let me get some water. I can feel my throat getting super scratchy. How can I meet this need? And us sitting in that boredom or sitting in that stillness of conundrum almost, that void space. And that's when boredom is when genius is born. And so all these people, all these new inventions are going to start coming up. All these new ways of doing things are going to come up. And that's going to be flipping amazing because we are literally creating and building the new earth. So the third major frequency of September is coming together. Okay. It was shown with the energy of number 4, which is, this is a 4-year. It's seeing clearly, it's working together. It's the heart energy. They said a new heartbeat, and the new heartbeat is beginning to the beginning stages. And I want to preface this. It is the beginning stages of synergy, where we start either thinking about, contemplating, and beginning the process of working together. I am you, you are me. How can I work with my neighbors to create change? And I have seen this all over Facebook, in my own community and other states where people are like feeling called to already start creating. I feel this urge to create a community garden. Like, how do I do that? I feel this urge to create this community center for children. How do I do that? I feel this urge to create this healing place for people to go when they're grieving. How do I do that? I have several students that are working with me right now, private mentoring, to step into those missions of creating these new earth places. So this is the beginning stages of synergy, of people coming together and connecting and saying, oh, you have a piece of my puzzle and you have a piece of my puzzle, but together we're whole. So it isn't anymore about I'm better than you or me, or I'm the leader and you're not. It is, hey, you hold a piece and you hold a piece and I hold a piece. If we come together and we work together, holy shit, like we can make this shit happen. Do you see? It's putting competition down and saying, I am you, you are me. Like, let's freaking work together and make this beautiful. There's enough for everybody. You cannot live in a lack consciousness and step into that. Right? You have to move through you're not enough. You have to move through your lack consciousness to be able to look at people and say, you hold pieces of my puzzle. Let's come together on an equal playing field and go. But if you're still seeing a hierarchy, it's not going to work. If you still believe that you don't have enough, or you still believe and play in the lack consciousness, it's not going to work. So that's why between where you are now and where you want to go, you have to clear any belief, any fear, any resistance that says you can't have that desire, because the you and the universe only expand when your desire is met. So literally the universe is rooting for you, because unless your desire is met, the universe doesn't expand. Consciousness doesn't expand. So the only thing you have to do to go from where you are now to closer to that desire, closer to where you want to be, is to work through any limiting beliefs, resistance, fears, traumas that are in between. And this is a lot of the work that I do. Okay. So I asked again for 3 ways to help with this. So they said deep emotions. This is opening up your emotions and seeing the spectrum of dominance and synergy, seeing the great divide, because the great divide is coming. It's going to get wider and wider and wider. And there is a bridge that crosses this divide. And as we're walking across this bridge, slowly moving forward from where we are to where we want to be, we're going to be seeing all this destruction taking place. We're going to be on the bridge, watching shit blowing up, watching things falling away, watching the destruction. And we have to keep moving forward, but we need to open ourselves up. Open up that well. If you work with me, you know I call your body the well, and the bottom of the well is where all the deep shit is buried. And so down there, we need to recognize the different spectrum of emotions that are going to come up. Rage, anger, grief, utter bliss, peace, harmony. You can't know great joy without knowing great pain. You have to know them both. That's balance. That's synergy. That's flow and alignment, is being able to hold both frequencies and know their uses and their purposes. Because again, we learn and expand through contrast. So you can't experience great joy if you've never experienced great pain. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand that? So it's seeing that great divide. It's seeing the opposites. The other thing is true leadership. This is the heart-centered leadership. This doesn't mean that you give everything away for free. This doesn't mean that you compromise yourself. This doesn't mean that you are only to be of service to other people's. Heart leadership means that whatever you're doing, whatever needs that you need to have met, whatever the world's needs that need to be met, everything that you do, say, teach, sell, work, experience is being invoked from an action from your heart, not from your ego, not from a place of lack, not from a place of woundedness. That what you're offering the world, what you're doing for the community is invoked from a place inside of you, inside your heart. It has a much bigger purpose. But that doesn't mean that you deny your needs. It doesn't mean that. And we have a lot of light workers in the world and a lot of wounded people in the world that literally will give everything away and be of complete utter service and won't take a dollar or just deny their own self, deny their own needs, deny their desires. It makes you no better, because that's a very selfish energy. Self-sacrifice, sacrificing yourself, is a very selfish energy. It is no better than the person who is overpowering to get their needs met. It's just power over, power under. So you need to find the heart space, the bridge, the center, where you're doing and being and acting from a place of love, something that fills you up, something that brings you joy. Whatever you do or don't do needs to come from that place. So if you feel it's your job to get online and to shed light on sex trafficking, on vaccines, on 5G, on corruption, on Black Lives Matter, on whatever, on COVID. If it's your job to do that, ask yourself one question. And I no judgment, whether you do it or not. I'm not going to judge you. That's your path. But just ask yourself one question. Am I doing it from a place of fear and I need to prove myself? Am I doing it from a place of fear, as in, I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to project it and I'm going to blame and I'm going to be the victim? Do I want someone to see my pain or to see the pain? Or am I doing it from my heart space of, I just feel like I need to share this. I just feel like I need to explore this. It's very different. And there are people that are going to need to shed light on this. There are going to be people that are going to need to be those loud voices or those big projectors of light. But recognize the energy of which you're doing it from. That's true leadership. And the third part of the last major energy is balance. And this is when I was looking into the balance, it was from going what I was just talking about, from seeing the synergy to dominance to seeing there's resources and there's inadequacy. How can I create a balance in between? If there's someone who is loaded with resources and there's someone who's fully in lack and has nothing, how can we bridge that gap? How can we work together to meet our own needs and to meet others? How can we work together? That's the kind of rebalancing that's going to happen in the world. It's powerful. So while this was a little bit longer of an energy update than I usually do, and I had a lot of heavy stuff that's come through, I ask you to share this message because I feel like I delivered it in a way that are going to be helpful to people to prepare them, not just for what may physically happen and unfold, because this is a very big potential. This is a very strong potential timeline, but also to give them the tools to work through it. And I hope that I was able to do that for you today. And again, you can go back to August's energy update. I think it was I have 2 energy updates in August. I can't remember. Channel brain was what happens, which one it was. But in one of them, I gave a ton of tools for working through fears and anxieties and things that are coming up. But the biggest thing I'm going to tell you right now is, again, I'm going to repeat this. Anything that triggers you, invokes fear in you, that you don't want to see, feel, acknowledge, I am you, you are me. You're only going to be an energetic match for what is inside of you, whether you're aware of it or not. So if it's happening, there's something for you there. And the way we shift this world, the way we move this train faster, is to actually slow down, sit down, acknowledge that you are disempowered, feel that pain, see your pain, hear your pain, feel safe to express your pain in a very safe, healthy way, please. And love yourself through it. Love yourself through it. Reclaim that part of you that you have repressed or denied or rejected or abandoned because it was too painful. Because this underbelly of karma that's rising up for us to see isn't just rising up from the centuries of greed and corruption and manipulation and what we call the dark energy. It's not really dark. It's just people who have chosen to go away from source, away from consciousness. It's just you. Sorry, I lost my stream of consciousness. It'll come back. Welcome to real life. So as that underbelly of karma, here it is, comes back up to the surface and you're feeling all that and you're seeing all that. We are a part of that. We are not separate from that. We're not separate from that karma. We have all played a part in it, right? Here's something that you to know about me. There's a reason why I felt so resistant for a while from sharing those images of what I've been seeing. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I had to sit and say, why do I not want to do this? And it was because I was a part of the destruction of Atlantis. I was responsible. I had a responsibility in the destruction of Atlantis. And that energy stayed with me because all of your lives are happening, past, future, and present are all happening in the now moment. Okay, we use past and future because we live in we're in a dimensional plane that's more linear. And we've created it to be that way. So that Atlantis energy is being activated and it's coming up in me that I was responsible. And so one of my big things is I'm always like, take responsibility. You need to take responsibility. And I kept asking myself, why do I keep saying that over and over and over again? Where am I not taking responsibility? And it was the fact that I needed to take ownership that I was a part of the destruction of Atlantis. And that's why I was so hesitant and so resistant to sharing these images because I didn't want to be responsible. I didn't want to be responsible for invoking fear. I didn't want to be responsible for sharing the dark or playing in it. I wanted to be so far away from it. But again, as I stated in the beginning, you cannot hold space for another, for the darkness that we see, for the darkness another one is experiencing, no matter what kind of darkness that is, if you're not willing to see and experience your own. It's impossible. So in order for me to stand here today, sit here today and share this, I had to face that energy. I had to reconcile that energy in me. And I hope that you do the same. Thank you for joining me. Please share, like, subscribe, follow. Hold compassion, hold empathy, hold the higher knowing while still giving yourself space to feel your own pain. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.